femininity. And finally, we have Beena Sarwar to present the closing remarks today. Beena is a renowned journalist, documentary filmmaker, and peace activist in the US, and I'm proud to call her my friend as well. She's the founder curator of Sapan and the founder editor of Sapan News. So, Beena, what would you now have to say about what are your closing remarks about the whole conversation today?
Yeah, thank you, Ekta. Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me and for inviting such a diverse panel of really wonderful women. I learned so much from each of them, the points they brought out and the issues they highlighted. I'll just sort of take a few minutes and sort of try and sum up what stood out to me from the conversation. And I have a few things that I want to say, but maybe I'll mix it up a little bit. So, just to take up what some of the people said at the end, Aisha and Anna, about the pushback, about the importance of pushback and the need for the pushback and the need for a watchdog. So, I was reminded. So, your topic is about film and television, and I'm really glad Aisha brought up the ads part of it, because ads, of course, are part of media as well, and they influence society also. And then also so do TV shows, and we all know about these these morning shows, and the shows that talk shows and all that, and there's so many now hosted by women as well. And of course, as so many of the speakers pointed out, just because somebody happens to be a woman doesn't mean that they will bring a gender perspective to
Right.
the production, and they might actually be like maybe have a more male oriented or patriarchal, let me say, vision or view.
Yeah.
um, just because somebody is a female politician doesn't mean that politician is going to have to be gender friendly. It's they might have take forward a patriarchal point of view. So women can be, I just want to, I guess, say that it's not about male and female or femme, as the term now is, as I was told the other day. It's not, you can't say female anymore, it's femme. But it's not about male or female or slash femme, but it's more about patriarchy and capitalism. We talked a lot about market forces. And I was reminded about this, about the importance of a watchdogs and the importance of collective action. A few years ago, some of you listening from Pakistan might remember this, 7, 8 years ago, perhaps. There was a woman anchor or whatever. I'm not going to name her because she was shamed enough at that time. But she did this morning show, and in that morning show, she went around to the parks around the city she was in, and she did a chapa, like she accosted couples who were sitting together or holding hands or whatever, and she asked them for their nikah nama, for their marriage certificate. Now, it is A, none of her business. B, she was obviously probably pushed by the producer to do this, but I don't know who originated this thing. And C, it was a terribly dangerous thing to do in a conservative society where, some of these couples might have been, hiding from their families, or they might have been intercaste or interreligious, or, something, and their families may not know. And of course, young people everywhere will go out and try and, go on dates. And why should that be criminalized? And this woman, producer, anchor, whatever, she went around asking them for their marriage certificates, which is a leftover thing from the Ziaul Haq times, when sex outside marriage was criminalized in Pakistan, and it still is. And the police were empowered to ask for the nikah namas, for the marriage certificates of any couple. And but I think what we did, this was actually a really good example of how collective action, like it blew up on social media, which was pretty fairly new at the time. But we made a collective called Citizens for Free and Responsible Media, and we really lobbied very hard, and to say that this should not be allowed. And she had to apologize, and she was actually fired from that TV channel. But of course, that was a long time ago, and there have been similar chapa mar kind of programs, attacking transgenders, for example. And I'm speaking about Pakistan specifically, these sort of reality TV shows, and attacking, running, going after, like where the media, where the journalists are playing the role of judge, jury, and exposing what they think is wrong. morality, sort of the morality policing kind of thing. So the morality policing, I guess that's one point I'd like to bring up, and the point that even though there is morality policing going on in all our countries to some extent, when there is a pushback, it can result in some kind of action, to bring it, highlight it, and to give a platform to those who are opposing that kind of mindset, the evolution of society as we see it. Um, another point I wanted to bring up was a couple of films that stuck out to me. Maybe these are disjointed thoughts, but I just wanted to, a couple of. I don't watch a whole lot of films. I don't watch a lot of serials, but I watched a couple of Indian films. Three Indian films I'll just mention, which some of you may have watched. One was Madam Chief Minister with Richa Chadda in the role of a female politician who basically takes on, who basically plays a very devious role to reach power. And that's showing a woman in a political role, but acting in a very patriarchal kind of a way, and not in the way that women traditionally behave. It's about power politics, and when women get together and when women go into politics, tradition or into any kind of situation, they tend to be work in a more collective way, in a more compassionate way, and of course exceptions prove the rule. So there was that. Then I just saw Nandita Das's wonderful film Zigato, which actually shows which is a wonderful comment on the sort of capitalist system and startup culture, and how people are being exploited in the garb of self-employment, or like, you can do so much and then you can um, you sort of earn according to how much you can work, and but the pressures involved in that. But one of the things I really liked about that film was the relationship between the male protagonist and his wife, which is a very loving and compassionate and humorous, and from a lower working class family. So I really like that depiction, and I think that and Nandita Das, of course, brings that gender angle into most of her, into all her work that I have seen. And the third film that I saw, which is an old film, it is a really lovely film. I think it was by Shyam Benegal, but I'm not sure. It's called Well Done Abba, and it's about a Muslim family in Hyderabad in India, and the story is told by the female protagonist's father, Bomal Irani, who's a wonderful actor. And one of the things I really enjoyed about that film was, I mean, some of you talked about, minorities, about indigenous people and minorities, and all that, and it really, I loved how it went beyond stereotypes and how feisty the woman character was, and the multiple layers, the nuances of that film I really liked. Well done, Abba. And if you haven't seen it, please do. It's actually, and also it's really funny. It was not made by a female director, but I loved the female protagonist in that. Another point I wanted to bring up was, I mean, we all remember that horrific Delhi rape case, which was known as, she became known as Braveheart, or
Nirbhaya.
some other Nirbhaya. Her name was Jyoti Singh, and I remember her father saying, please say her name. Her name was Jyoti Singh. Don't, like, she wasn't a brave. She wasn't fighting for women's rights. She was just out, with a friend. One of the things that struck me, I watched the BBC documentary on that, and one of the things that struck me about that, about the interviews of the men who had committed that horrific crime, and also the other commentary that was included in that documentary, was one of the things that struck me in that was the effect on cinema, on popular cinema, on the psyche of people. And that also speaks to some of the points made earlier by some of the speakers here, the responsibility of the producers and actors and producers and generally everybody. And I'm really glad, Aisha, that you brought up um, our friend Atia Daud's refusal to show rape in the way that the producer was asking her to show. And I wonder how many people have done that, but we don't know about it because they don't go public about it because they don't want to lose work. But in that, I remember that the sexualized content that we are seeing now, particularly in Hindi cinema, the really overtly sexualized, and the sort of fantastical kind of scenes that are shown, which don't relate to anybody's reality in many of them, not always, of course. But again, the exception proves the rule. I think the film Lunchbox had some wonderful female characters with nuance as well. But the the sexualization and the and then that is linked. A socio-political aspect to this is that the which is not related directly to your topic, Ekta, but I think it is something, because as I keep saying, everything is connected. The rural urban migration and the hordes of men, particularly, who have to leave their families and find a way to live in heartless cities where they have to do back-breaking work and are treated like dirt, and what that does to their self-esteem. And then they go to the cinema and they watch these films. And of course, that is not to take away from the responsibility of someone who engages in violence against women because they've got triggered by these, the constant conditioning of these kind of films, and the sexualization and the idea that a woman is wearing a certain kind of clothes or out in a certain kind of way, she's fair game. And that is what happened with Jyoti Singh when she was out with her friend, and those men asked that couple, the friends, if they were married, and when they said they were not married, if they had been married, perhaps they might have got away with it, but because they were not married, she was seen as fair game. So there is this, this kind of psyche as well. And I think,
Yeah.
just I think that all of you brought up some wonderful points, and like Ekta noticed, I was taking notes as I typically do. But I think that the point you've already gone over some of those points, Ekta, and I think that I don't need to repeat what people have already said. But I was really glad to hear all these different points of view, and also to see so much engagement from people watching this from across the region. Um, so thank
Yeah.
you so much for arranging this, for organizing this.
Thank you. And you brought up that the BBC documentary that was called India's Daughter, and
India's daughter, that's
it
right.
was made by Leslie Adwin. And in the
Yes.
last South Asia Union discussion, we had Nandita Das and Leslie Adwin also
Nice.
discuss, and she talked about how by the time men reach that age, and they've lost that the empathy nerve in their brain, and now she's become an educationist. And I think that's what everybody here is saying, that we need to keep doing our bit in whatever platform we can, and to create awareness. I know Saloni is doing it through her social media. Muktashri is doing it through her TikTok videos. Anna's, of course, doing it with her activism. Aisha's documentaries, and Sadia's own writing. I think everybody is doing their bit in their way. Shelja is, the powerhouse who is powering all these women filmmakers and women-centric serials, at least to the extent that she can in her own way. So I think thank you all for the work that you do, and thank you for taking out time from your lives and to be here and to share your views with all of us across the border, creating a network of women who are trying to create a difference in their own way. And before we close, I would like to thank our technical support volunteer for the day, Apurva, who has been behind the scenes all this time. And Apurva is an accomplished fashion and design editor who's been my colleague in the past, and now she's an accomplished mental health professional who's trained in the US. So thank you to Apurva, and thank you all for being here today. Today's live video will remain online on our social media channels. You can follow us on eShe World for more discussions with amazing women. And please do think of signing Sapan's petition. We have a petition on change.org for easing visa restrictions in South Asia. And I'll share the link in the comments. So thank you, everybody. And if you find it interesting, please sign our petition and join our cause. So I'm going to go off the live now, and we can continue the conversation forward. And please take these issues forward, take these topics forward in your personal lives and in your groups and your networks. And let's keep the conversations going. Thank you so much.